Patience. I'm sorry that we were delayed a little bit longer than I had predicted. That's usually the case, but you have been very patient. I hope you enjoyed lunch, and welcome back. The gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Walden, is next to be recognized, and he is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the commissioners. I've enjoyed getting to know some of you over the years, some of you more recently, and some of you I look forward to spending some time with. And I appreciate the cordiality that we're seeing on display today, your willingness to work together and talk together, and I realize with many new members and leadership, it is a new FCC. I had not planned to get into this issue today, but the letter that's come forward from a number of interest groups prompted me to do some research in the last 24 hours. And it's troubling what I've been reading regarding a gentleman who now has been given a special position at the Commission, head of diversity and a special counsel position, Mr. Lloyd. And I was just reading a document from Center for American Progress where he outlines his various views, an article from July 24th of 2007. And you know, I think I've shared with some of you, my wife and I were in small market radio ownership for nearly 22 years. My father helped put stations on the air back to the 30s and believed very strongly in the responsibility of licensees to serve their communities. So when I read that this gentleman says that commercial broadcasters want to be trustees of public property but without responsibility, I got to tell you, I take offense to that. And I don't think I'm taking that out of context. It's written right here. And some of the other comments I've only have recently been made available to me and that I've read show me that you've got a person in there who I don't recall over the years the FCC having that strongly opinionated a person in a position as important as that. The FCC to me has always been a very professional organization that didn't go down this path. And so I find this very offensive. Chairman, you and I had a very good conversation about fairness doctrine. You know my feelings on that. I've received your comments, and I understand you're not for putting it back in, and I'm not for putting it back in, that it didn't work when it was there. I happen to believe it's probably unconstitutional. The information from Mr. Lloyd would indicate he's not for putting fairness doctrine back in. He's just for a whole different scheme that gets to the same outcome. And his appointment occurred after our conversation. This is all bubbling up right now. But, you know, a lot of talking about czars. I hope we don't have a government speech czar in place that's going to drive a whole different mechanism through the rulemaking and challenging the licensees. And I'm just trying to figure out what his position is, what his responsibilities are. Will we have an opportunity to question him before this committee at some point to really vet these issues? Would you be supportive of that? Because I got to tell you, I'm out of the business now, but I am deeply offended by what I read here and troubled. And I open up to any of you to comment. He works for all of you, I would assume.
I'd be happy to start. First, I did enjoy our meeting, and as I mentioned when you were out of the room earlier, it actually led to some constructive follow-up. We took your idea around having the Media Bureau staff meet with broadcast engineers and actually produce some concrete suggestions. It relates to some of what the goals are with the staff of the FCC. In my opinion, an expert agency needs to have a broad range of people with different backgrounds, different expertise, and we do. We talked about some of those people when we got together, people from the business community, a vibrant exchange of ideas internally. I understand some of the concerns that you have, and I can say a couple of things. One is, to the extent that there's a concern that the Commission would engage in any censorship of broadcasters or anyone in the media on the basis of political views and opinions, the answer is we won't. If First Amendment prohibits it, it won't happen.
I appreciate that.
To the extent that there are concerns you've indicated about the Commission not being aware of the economic conditions and challenges that broadcasters face, I can assure you that anything the Commission does would take those into account. The Commission needs to understand what's going on with broadcasters. Similarly, I appreciate your point about broadcasters acknowledging special responsibilities, and I know so many broadcasters take that seriously, provide very valuable service to the community. Americans value it, local news and information, emergency alerts, other emergency information, traffic, weather, and so I actually think there's a lot of agreement around core principles. Diversity is another area where for a very long time there has been, I think there still is, a bipartisan consensus that it is an important objective of the communications policy in the FCC. The diversity goals are mentioned in hundreds of FCC decisions. They're explicitly in the Communications Act. The Supreme Court has acknowledged that it's a role. And the idea of having diversity as an objective of the FCC and having staff focused on it seems to be a natural extension.
And I do not take exception to that. I just begin to read what he said. There are comments, video comments about Hugo Chavez. There's some pretty outrageous things being said, having been written in the past. And that troubles me that somebody that's opinionated to the extreme element that he is, from my perspective, is not going to bring balance to that diversity position that you've created.
Right. A couple of points, if I could.
Sure.
One is the policy of the commission is made by the chairman and the commissioners. Staff have many different ideas all over the map.
I understand, but having been a licensee, we don't talk to the commissioners, we talk to the staff.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying. They have extraordinary power in any agency to tilt the rules, to interpret them, to interact with different publics. And this just seems to be a very biased person going in. We all have our biases. This one just seems to be out there.
Well, the other thing that I would want to make sure that you knew is that, as I've said before, Mark Lloyd is not working on these issues. He's not working on fairness doctrine issues. He's not working on censorship issues. He's not working on these issues.
Right.
He's working on opportunity issues, primarily now around broadband adoption, focusing on making sure that broadband is available to all Americans.
So he's not going to be working on the broadcast license issues, none of those things.
He's not working on those issues. He is someone who is well known to many people in the communications industry for a long time. He's been involved in these issues. He's known to virtually all of us here on the panel. He has taught at MIT, and as I said, he's someone who, of course, we'd make available to you or anyone to speak with if you have any concerns, as we would any staffer at the FCC.
All right. Mr. Cox?
And I would just encourage you, I think, to take advantage of that offer and to get to know him a little bit better. Every human being is a totality with a lot of different experiences and a lot of different ideas. We've worked very closely with Mr. Lloyd when he was at the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, where he did announce, you know, what a credible organization that is, under the leadership of Wade Henderson. He was of inestimable help during the DTV transition, with helping mobilize a lot of non-traditional stakeholders and helping get the word out on DTV. So he has a very distinguished record as a chairman, and Chairman Janikowski said nothing that I would disagree with. I would agree with everything that he said. We'll be, the commissioners will be making the decisions, but we want a place of intellectual ferment and different ideas, and you have an organization of 1,800 people. I don't think everybody's going to go in lockstep, and then we rely on the judgment of the organization and the people at the top of the organization to make intelligent decisions about where we're going. But as for the personal characteristics of this particular individual, I think they are of the highest, and I, for one, am pleased that he is at the FCC.
Could I hear from the other commissioners, sir?
Well, you're going on 9 minutes now, Mr. Walden.
Got an extra two
but if
for the
others
opening
want to
statement.
comment very briefly, that would be good.
We're not overcrowded up here on the dais right now.
Well,
I know you
we've
may
had
have
our
to leave,
witnesses here for a long time today, and Mr. McDonald, if you have a comment.
Thank you. Specifically a question for me on this? Or
well, just if you had a follow-up comment on this.
Sure. Well, first of all, I've met Mr. Lloyd in the context of my work here at the FCC and in the context of our work on the digital TV transition, so that's the only context I really know him in. He did, with the General Counsel, have the courtesy to come and meet with me last week. We had a very nice meeting. We talked about what his mission, what his portfolio would be at the Commission, and it's as the Chairman had outlined. I share your concern with the substance of his writings and some of what he's been recorded as saying. I would hope that that does not become Commission policy. I will be certainly very vigilant in defending the First Amendment and the rights of broadcasters and those who speak over the airwaves in that regard. At the same time, I do think the Chairman, as CEO of the FCC, does have the prerogative to hire folks he wants to. At the same time, to your point, though, that career staff or staff below the Commissioner level can have great influence without us knowing sometimes, and that maybe is something that should be part of FCC reform, as we've talked about that, to make sure that it's as transparent an agency as possible. I take the Chairman at his word that he will work in that direction. He certainly has taken some terrific steps in that regard, but we will all be watchful and mindful, and sometimes just shining the spotlight on an issue or concern can be very curative and very positive.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walden. Well, I think we've answered this question, and I want to say thank you to each of the commissioners for your attendance here today and for the testimony that you provided. And I can say that I have tremendous confidence in your ability to undertake the difficult challenges before you and make outstanding decisions. And we all on this subcommittee look forward to our coordination with you as together we seek to advance American telecommunications policy. We'll be having other hearings. We'll invite your attendance from time to time and informal conversations with you in the time between those hearings. So with the thanks of this subcommittee for your appearance today and your outstanding testimony, this hearing stands adjourned.